So today we are going to talk about a topic that is, I would say, quite interesting. Just please let me know in the chat if you can hear me fine. Recently the Sentinel and the broadcasting programs was a bit funny, so I'm really hoping you can hear me fine. So today's topic is going to be just me talking, but I do believe you are going to enjoy it. So I'm always having the question from people, and that is how to start with magic, how to start with hermetic development, and how to start with anything that's esoteric or esoteric training, how to become a magician. This question is fairly common. I'm having it quite often. So I decided to make this show today to explain maybe why some of those concepts are so hard to grasp to people, why there is such a lack of good literature for beginners, and why some of those things seem to be so hard to penetrate. So this is what this show will be about today. I think recently I was quite slacking on being actually in a chat room, so I normally not there, but actually this time, because obviously it's just me. Just stop myself because this time I'm obviously going to take questions and stuff like that. So obviously you can ask questions about those things in a chat. So in case you're just listening and would you like to join the chat, I would definitely invite you. It's on paraxradio.network in the section chat now. I'm there as a guest 1540 because I wasn't able to log myself in, and that would be on my technical abilities, and that's where you can join me and ask the questions. I'll be kind of checking it throughout the show today. So first I have to start the show with, I would say, few, not necessarily warnings, but just disclaimers. But the first one obviously is that none of it that's going to be discussed today is opinion of the Parax Radio. I'm always saying they're actually really nice people. They have nothing to do with this. That's just me. And obviously, because today we are going to be talking about hermetics and esoteric principles, I felt compelled to just let know that obviously some of those things I'm going to say today is going to might collide with a certain religious ideas, and I would like to disclaim that it's not going to make to offend anybody, or make everybody angry, but actually to shed some light on principles and teachings that were historically provably resources for especially Abrahamic religions, and that's where the Abrahamic religions were taking their knowledge base. So I want to kind of shed some light on those and kind of explain what it actually is. So starting in magic, or let's say esoteric, becoming a magician, what it actually is. We might have an idea about magician of a stage magician, but stage magician is a concept that's fairly new. The idea of a stage magician, somebody who's doing tricks, a trickster, it's something that's about 150 years old. That's when we first saw a cabarets and stage magician actually doing a magic. Funny thing is about this, that loads of the stage magicians were actually real magicians in their real life. A good example would be starting with Czech hermetic Franz Barden, who was doing a stage magic under his pseudonym Frabado, but in his real life he was actually a very dedicated hermetic as well. We also have this idea of a stage magician from a guy named Mesmer, who was in 18th century, I believe it's 18th century. If it's not, please correct me, I believe it's 18th century. But he was doing salons and meetings where he was showing his abilities with magnetism and hypnosis. So that kind of, he was definitely hermetic. He was somebody who was in esoteric development. However, this public exposures or showing of those esoteric abilities then later on turn into form. Unfortunately, that is it now, that you can see on every single poster when you go to Las Vegas, which is obviously stage magicians. That has nothing to do with anything esoteric and purely is it's a trick, but that's not how it used to be. So what is an occult path? What is hermetics? What is this whole path about? What's the goal at the end? So the goal at the end is going to be slightly different depending on which hermetic school you're going to go with. Some will tell you that what's at the end of it is awakening of your true powers, awakening of your inner God. That's what you're going to get, I would say, if you go with the pure hermetics, the pure form of hermetics. If you will follow the path of hermetics that are more Christianized, like Rosicrucians, they will tell you that the goal is the ascent to God. They will tell you that is to blend with the God, is to be one with the God and truly understand those powers and truly understand the light. So either way, we still know that at the end of this path, there is a God. So hermetics as a teaching is not by any means a blasphemy. They are not denying the existence of God, and they are just finding a different paths to it and different ways how to understand it than, let's say, you can find in religions, even though in religions most of it is actually based on hermetics teachings, which are actually very, very old. So loads of people ask me, especially if they're atheistic, which is normal because Czech Republic is basically 100% atheistic. I still have a hard time to pronounce this. They tell you, how you can see the God that exists and how you can see there is something like God within yourself. And to that, the response is, can you move? Yes, so if you can move, that means you have a God within yourself. We have many objects around ourselves, including crystals, including flowers, and including rocks. Things like, let's say, crystals do crystallize as a result of a divine will. So the shape of the crystal, the way how it crystallizes as a result of a divine godly will. The will is to shape it in a particular way, and the crystals crystallizing in a particular way. There's a reason why the crystals from all over the world will look the same, because they are a result of a one will that wants them to crystallize a certain way. Other objects like animals and flowers. Flowers have limited amount of will. They can kind of move on their own based on their own will, like sunflowers turning to sunlight. But obviously they don't have as developed will as, let's say, animals or humans. Animals can still have their own will. They also have a divine spark within them that's giving them the ability to act based on their free will. But obviously, us humans have it way more, I would say, complex. So you have to have a divine will and divine spark and God within you to be able to possess a piece of decaying meat, which is your body. That's the ultimate proof of God. Meat itself, if our body is left by this piece of God, it decays within hours. Meat decays. Everything is basic. Everything is decaying. Nothing is safe from this process. So we are having two parts of ourselves. One is a body that is decaying in its material and is yet to be decaying in like 72 hours. And we have the second piece of ourselves, which is piece of our inner God, which is eternal. So if we combine something that is decaying within 70 hours and something that is eternal, we can get to a lifespan of about 100 years. That's like good in between combination between eternal and 72 hours. So that's the reason why our body is not decaying. We can say, oh, no, Astrid, it's because of the chemicals and bacteria and all sorts of the other processes. But the answer is then, who's governing them? Who is governing the body to renew? Who is governing whose will is it? When we see a watch on a wall, we know that there is a watchmaker who made that watch. We are not denying him and his existence, even though we can't see him at the moment. We can't see the watchmaker. The watch are on the wall already, but we just by purely observing that creation, we are realizing that there must be a mind that created it. And with our human world and all planets and all the galaxies, it functions exactly the same way. We see the result, so we must conclude that there is a mind who creates it. Obviously, the mind might not look like you see it on the pictures. It might not be white guy with a beard wearing a bed sheet. It's something more abstract. It's just a will. It's just a will, and most likely so vast and so huge that will be impossible for human consciousness, not unconsciousness, consciousness to grasp it. So, but we have still this divine spark within us, and the hermetics and occult path is not really about throwing fireballs or being able to make things levitate. All of those things are seen merely as distractions from the true goal, which in this case is to, I would say, see the divine light, blend with it, and truly understand it. That way is basically the only way how we can get outside of the circles of a suffering and the circles of unhappiness and discontentment, and find real fulfillment of life purely by understanding its principles and the things that are behind it. So the question is, who is right? Which religion is right? Are atheists right? Kind of everybody is right. They're all just representing different facets of this big one mind that is all. That's the reason why many hermetics teachings or many hermetics books are not referring to God as a God, however they are referring to this power as the all. Really point out that there is nothing that would be outside of the all. There is everything is part of it, including evil, including good. It's just two sides of one coin. That's all the all. So in hermetics, it's something that we are trying to penetrate. We are trying to understand principles. We are trying to learn those principles, and we are trying to find our way to navigate ourselves in this dual governed world. It's hard work. Nobody's not saying this is. It's a very hard work to be able to do that, and it's not something that comes easy, and sometimes can take years for individuals who are very talented or have a previous life experience with hermetics. It will be significantly faster. That can happen too. Some people will spend many years on it, but they will only be interested in the distractions, like, as I said, levitating or fireballs or all sorts of other things that are truly just distraction from the right path. So the amount of time that somebody spends on it is not necessarily a guarantee of a quality of findings of that person. You can more judge the quality of the findings of the person purely from his energy. Does the person look radiant? Does the person look happy? Does the person look content and somehow internally peaceful no matter what's going on? That is usually the result of a hermetic development that's done correctly, which sometimes can even come to people without actually going through all of those books, but merely going through life experiences that were so intense that the person most likely intuitively came to the same conclusion as person going through hermetic development. It doesn't happen that often, but it can happen, and I'm seeing definitely people who got into that point when I can see they feel God, they are peaceful, they're radiant, they have all of those qualities of light, radiance, peacefulness, shining, but they have them within their human body. That's a sign of this human's shiny spark of God being vacant. So I wanted to just really briefly going in actually my own experience with this journey, and that was I felt power within myself when I was a child, but then I wasn't really feeling any, I would say, urge to pursue that before I turned about 26 or something around that. And then suddenly I started to feel very strong urge to follow this journey. And that is taking me to the first step of the journey. If this what I was saying sounds appetizing, that's most likely a sign that something within you already wants to pursue that path anyway. So the first step in this case is calling. Feeling the calling to follow this path. That's the first condition that has to be fulfilled. If the person doesn't feel the calling, you can't make them follow the path. The person has to feel compelled and has to want it. You can't convince somebody who doesn't want to follow this path to follow it, and you can't even try to explain lots of those concepts for somebody who is not interested to follow this path. You are trying to overpower, or you are trying to going against that person's inner God that made this decision that it's going to be closed for now. And obviously there is no way how you can go against somebody's inner God. So first thing you have to feel is calling. Calling is something that you can feel your whole life. You can feel it as a result of events, usually dramatic events, or events that are, I would say, very somehow emotionally demanding. Loads of people feel the calling after, let's say, many years of drug abuse or violence. Then they feel like they're ready to leave that completely behind and follow the path of light. I'm usually giving examples of many people who actually done that. Especially, let's say, Alcoholics Anonymous. That's a place where people obviously are coming with as a result of alcoholic addictions, and then they are able to pursue a light path because obviously AA it's a Christian system. So the calling is the first part. Second part that's usually coming after the calling, when the person feels it, is obviously taking action, trying to look for literature, trying to look for people, trying to look for some sort of resources, trying to help you or guide you how to start. Obviously, starting itself, it's the hardest part for many reasons. One of the reasons why it will be so hard for people to truly start with this path is quite pragmatic, and that is lack of literature for beginners. That is no accident by any means. On the market, there is a lot of literature that's based on more advanced hermetic stuff. There is not really a problem to find very advanced books on magic and occult and esoterics that will be unpenetrable for beginners. But why those big secrets? Why those big books with this such advanced stuff? Why they are made public? Shouldn't those be the biggest secrets that should be kept somewhere locked out, without any public be able to see it? And the answer to this is that under the candle, right under the candle, that's where the biggest darkness is. It's the books that are the most guarded and the most secret ones are not the advanced one, because those can be freely published, because except for the adepts who are able and they are already on the degree they can work with them and understand them, there is no danger. A person who is uninitiated will have very little use of those books. They won't be able to understand it, and in most cases they won't be able to follow through with the exercises, no spells that are in them. So those books actually possess a very little danger to general public. On the other hand, beginners' books are the ones that are usually guarded with the most, I would say, guarding eyes, because that's the first step that would actually help the person to be able to get to the point when they can understand those books. So it's not the advanced books that are guarded, it's the initiatory books that are guarded. Still, there is a way how to find a few books, and I'm going to, at the end of this show, do some book recommendations that will kind of lead you to where to start. So if you can't find the right literature, please trust me that it is on a purpose. So that leads me to a question, and that is this path dangerous? Because I've been talking about danger, right? So is this path truly dangerous? Can something bad happen to you if you follow this path? I would say yes, and it's not what you might think it is. It's not the anger of God that's trying to punish you for taking this brave, almost blasphemously sounding step of awakening your internal God. That's not against the main God. It's not anything against the all. This part of yourself is just a piece of it. Why it should be against piece of it being awakened? It wants to exist. It wants to be the all. That's what it is. So actually it will support you on your way. It will try to level up if you make mistakes. It will try to balance things out, and it will try to help you on your way and lead you eventually to people or to books that are just right for you. Just the fact that you are listening to this podcast is most likely part of this for you and for your journey. And you just kind of have to let the divinity to somehow just shuffle your life. Don't struggle, let go. So the path can be dangerous, and there are even books which I'm not going to tell you the name of the book, and you don't have to be worried. You are not going to come across this book ever. It's a book that was published in the Czech Republic back in the 30s, wasn't published ever since, and you're not going to just get to this book. But this book was very popular at that time, but the exercises given in that book was actually leading to possibly hundreds, even most likely thousands of people actually ending up in asylums and having very strong medical problems as a result of doing those energy exercises. This book was and still is very dangerous to practice for the reason that this particular author is not going step by step in the development, but pretty much at the beginning of the book just throws you straight into the divine light, which obviously you as an untrained human in your human body, even though partially God, can't handle, and your body basically starting to collapse. So that's obviously not great. So yes, it's dangerous. I'm not going to lie to you. Discretion advised. But is it worth it to do it? Yes, but you have to do it right. You can't skip exercises if you are sticking to a system. You shouldn't just, I'm not interested in this hard stuff. That's hard. I don't want to do it. I just want to do the bit that says clairvoyance, or I don't just want to do the bit that says divination. If you will have this approach, yes, super dangerous, and you just shouldn't do it. You just should go back to your video games, because this is not going to work. But if you have approach that I'm humble and I really want to follow this path because I feel like I need to, and I will take what it takes, and I will work on myself, and I will create the discipline within myself, and I'm willing to work hard, that's the right approach that will get you results. So if that's something you can do, or you think that sounds like you, I'm going to actually give a little bit of the first steps, that even though if you try different systems, the first steps will be very similar, actually. So the first thing that is important to understand is that it's a hard work. Energy is not just created. Results are just not made out of thin air. Energy, that's a first thermodynamic law. The energy always just is energy. There is no new energy created. So we're just exchanging the energy for work for the results. And it requires a very rigorous discipline. That's something that has to be created. You have to have a discipline, otherwise it's not going to work. Most people actually fail on this. Most people fail on discipline. That's actually very interesting. And in a way, when you are starting with the books that's about esoteric or magical training, they usually at the beginning give you many very rigorous discipline requiring exercises, and it's there for a purpose, and you should never skip them because you will need the discipline very much down the line, where it will be needed for much harder exercises to do. So it's also a way how I believe the esoteric literature is actually protecting itself. The people who will just give up at the beginning, says, oh, I don't want to do it, that's too hard, would not have enough discipline and enough will to actually follow through with the whole teachings or with the whole progress. So it's better if they just basically leave it at the beginning. So first steps, I would say, is to relax. First thing is the ability to let go, to be able to clear your mind, and to be able to just calm down. Get rid of the chatter of everyday life. Learning how to truly relax sounds easy. I can relax. I can just be on the couch for hours. But can you really? Can you just be on the couch? You don't have to switch on TV. You don't have to read the newspapers. You don't have to try to get your mind to just getting occupied with something else. Can you be without your phone, without book, without any distractions? Just relaxing? Just that? Nothing else? That's where the things get hard, right? So relaxing, it's a beautiful exercise. You're just letting the energy go. You can combine it with grounding and just walking barefoot. It's also great. So the first step is usually to let go. The second step is meditation. We heard about meditation a million times, but still almost every single metaphysical training system, starting from Lomer, Barden, Crowley, even if you go actually to the lodge materials, they all tell you that it's important to meditate. You're not really getting that far without meditation. Now, it's good to meditate longer and longer time. If you're having hard time to meditate, which actually loads of people do, especially nowadays with all the technology that's keeping us constantly, like our mind busy, trying to keep our mind busy, because having mind busy is addictive. It's addictive, and it's very easy to fall for having your thoughts and mind being constantly full of chatter and obsessive thoughts. That's easy. Clearing it is hard, and now the technology is getting significantly harder, which is making the meditation and the relaxing exercise even more important than it was most likely 100 or 200 years ago. So if you have a hard time to meditate, I would say start first with relaxing exercise, just relaxing without any distractions. After you learn how to meditate and clear your mind and clear clutter in your mind, one of the another steps that you can find in a different form and in many different systems would be rigorous introspection and contemplations. That's something that it's a hard bit, because at this time, after we calm down and clear your mind, we have to look at ourselves as us being our tool. Our body is the tool. It's how we are going to do this journey with our mind, with our spirit, and with our body. That's how we are going to continue on this path of a magician. So our body is our tool. It's the divine vehicle where the spark is seated in. So we have to make sure that our mind, our soul, and our body is in a perfect top shape. If you have a broken car, you're not going to get very far. So you have to most likely going to make it worse if you're actually trying to travel far with that car. So that's where rigorous introspection and contemplation is needed. That's one of the hard parts. Obviously, we have to look at ourselves and be able to determine and ask ourselves things that we don't want to. We have to go and really be honest with ourselves. And again, that's something that our current culture is not really supporting. It's supporting posting fake pictures with the smiles on a Facebook to get approval. It's a culture of making us look better. It's just we want to be better. We want to only hear pleasant things. We only want to hear good news. We don't want to be disciplined. We don't want to look at ourselves and says, I'm lacking self-love and that's why I'm having problems with relationships. We don't want to look at ourselves and says, damn it, I like boundaries. No, we don't want to hear all of that. So that's one of the reasons why also loads of people are having really hard time to pursue this hermetic path further. As you can see in this case and in this path, it's a different type of hard work. It's not a labor. We are not doing physically hard work, but we are doing something that's even harder. And that's we are working on ourselves with our own mind, our own body. It's personal. It's not getting much more personal than that. If you are getting work done, at the end of the day, we can just leave it. It says, fine, I'm done, I'm going home. But this is not the case. We have to be with ourselves 24/7. You are the person who you are with. So, like all the time. So, it's very important to be, it's hard obviously, to be honest and seeing oneself as a work in progress. But it has a very good reasons why this is happening. So what is the goal of this rigorous introspection? And except for perfecting the tool that we are going to use on that journey, which is our mind and body, we have to know that our mind and subconscious and unconscious is cleared. We have to clear it as much as possible. There is no place for old grudges. There is no place for grieving for ex-boyfriends. There is no place for basically all of those wounds. This place must be cleared. It must be clear like a big, nice blue lake. So after that is happening and our mind is cleared and we let go of the grudges, we are relaxing, we are purifying ourselves. It's called a purification. We are basically, I would say, closing the initial stages of this development before we continue to, let's say, to work with light and see the light. First, we have to go through the shadow of our own shadow, contemplating also about the world's shadow and trying to clear it out. So this idea of perfection, I'm trying to perfect myself. It's something that it's very important. Obviously should never be, I would say, obsession, because obsession is also, it's not perfection if you're obsessed with something. If you're obsessed with something, it actually, what it truly is just a sign that you are fearing lack of control. You are too afraid to let go. And obviously that at the end of the day is just fear. So the perfectioning of ourselves, it doesn't mean to copy somebody. It doesn't mean like you have to look a certain way or act a certain way or think a certain way. It should be your own creation. It should be the result of your own inner God creating its own form, perfecting its own form and choosing what type of a temple it wants for itself. So for somebody, that would be being a goth. For somebody, it will be being a banker or an architect. For somebody, it will be the artist. For somebody, it would be wearing a nice tie-dye t-shirt. For somebody, it will be wearing a suit. All of it, it's okay. All of it is just a different manifestation, different facets of the internal God who is choosing his temple. So make that contemplation. Ask your own inner God, what is the type of a temple you want? How do you want me to function? How you want this to be? Let's see where this is going to take us, and just following that intuition. If you feel like tie-dye, that's the way where to go, and crystals, and that's what my inner will wants for me to look like. Go for it. Make yourself get yourself the best tie-dye you want to get. Make yourself the best. Get yourself the best tie-dye shirt you want. Get yourself the nicest crystals. Just make yourself as best as possible, as perfect as you can. You want to be healer, they think that's the perfection for you, go for it. You want to be a famous architect, that's what your temple wants to be, go for it. That's the sign, that's the will of your inner God. You should, let's go with it. So we each of us the path to I would say, perfection, or as I'm calling it, be your own design. No need to be authentic. What is authentic? Authentic doesn't exist. Nothing really is authentic. Be your own design. Be who you want to be. Be who your internal God wants to be, and just give it a form. So that way, I would say that's one of the first steps that you are going to take in magic. Obviously, some sort of energy work will come sooner or later. Some sort of a dream work eventually will come sooner or later. Loads of those systems also work with breath. That's something you are going to meet quite often as well. Some of those are working with yoga, so especially Crowley is quite vigorous about his yoga exercises. So that's another thing you are going to experience. Good way how to choose the book or how to choose your path is just to go through different books and see which ones you resonate with. I would say don't try to necessarily push yourself into reading books just because somebody recommended them, and you just don't feel it when you are reading it. It just doesn't feel right. That's usually a sign that this book is just not what you and what your specific and unique spark of God needs at that point, at that time of life. It's something that you might need or you will come back to in a few years, or never. But the compatibility at that given time and space is just not great. So you don't have to feel bad about it. Even that everybody else is reading this book, it just might not be for you. So you might find the right guidance or the right books coming from very unexpected sources. It can be some occult literature. It can be even mainstream occult, like esoteric New Age literature. Guidance is sometimes coming from unexpected sources. So just being open. It's not like one source is better than the other if it works for you. So after you go on this path and you're willing to do that discipline, and you will decide to stick to it, you will slowly start to see how your worldview is changing. You will start to see things in connections. You will understand things more, I would say, as a part of a more, I would say, elaborate or more difficult system or net of causes and of actions and reactions. And you will also start to see the world around you as being energy. You will start to understand that energy is everywhere and it's everything, including yourself. So your worldview and the way how you see world on everyday basis life is going to change. So that's something also to consider before you go in this journey. If you are comfortable with the fact that how you perceive world is going to change completely. Obviously that is making people uncomfortable because it feels like somebody took the solid ground that you had under your feet your whole life, just suddenly it's gone, and you are kind of floating in a vacuum and don't know what to do. I'm just in the middle of a space. I don't know. I don't have a solid ground in my feet. I don't know what to do with the things now. So you must be able to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Again, I believe that's one of the qualities that we are losing as a humanity, especially in Western culture lately. We are just not comfortable being uncomfortable anymore. We have comfy shoes, we have all the things that are making us comfortable. Obviously, we have nice soft beds. We are rarely coming, or very little coming in touch with actual physical discomfort. Maybe one day we are sick, but then we have many pills that we can just stuff ourselves with. So any little bit of discomfort has to be immediately eliminated, no matter what it is, and no matter why we are feeling it. We should immediately get rid of it. But obviously there are situations in life, let's say heartbreaks, relationships, where the discomfort obviously is something that we can't really avoid. Things like that happen. We argue with our partner and we want to make out. We just want to sort it out. We just want to talk through the situation, where the partner is at the moment just not ready to have that conversation. We have to wait. We have to wait for 24 hours, maybe a week. And that's when we are experiencing extremely strong discomfort. But sometimes it's okay to feel discomfort. It's challenging, but if there's nothing we can do about the situation, and the partner doesn't want to talk, so we have to learn how to let go of that feeling that we need to get rid of that discomfort. And hermetic and occult paths will bring many moments when we are feeling discomfort. Let's say when we do the introspection, as I was mentioning before, we are feeling discomfort because we have to, in the introspection, admit that we might have problems with codependency. We might have to admit ourselves things like, I think I tend to be needy because I believe that I have a hard time to fulfill my own needs independently. So I think I'm actually trying to be needy on other people, trying to make them to fulfill my needs. That's absolutely so uncomfortable thing to admit to ourselves. The astounding amount of discomfort from being able to talk to ourselves like this. And while trying to say, no, I don't want to go down that lane because I feel discomfort, obviously can actually prevent us from actually getting anywhere in this metaphysical development, or I would say partially in life in general. So just to let you know, because it's like last 15 minutes of the show, I just wanted to kind of remind you that if you start listening to that show right now, or if you would like to re-listen to this show, you can find it on www.spiritual-alchemy.uk, when there is an archive of all the shows, or you can go on mixcloud.com and just Google Spiritual Alchemy, and you can find the Mixcloud account where you can find all the important shows. So that's basically what it is. So I'm just trying to now get to the chat. It says authentication error. So I'm not entirely sure why I can't go into that chat, but I'll try to get there again. And if you would have any question, please let me know, because I'm going just like respond to the questions in the chat, because obviously this is a good topic to ask questions, and a lot of people usually have questions about like what this is actually, what is it to be magician, because Para X Radio, obviously it's paranormal, so it has listeners who do realize and admit and have seen it. There is things between earth and skies. There are some energies, there are ghosts, there are things like that. So being magician, that's kind of within the same realm. But what is it truly about? Is it about talking about some magical stuff that happened in Egypt 3,000 or 6,000 years ago? For some people, partially, yeah, but it's really about awakening of our inner God. And lots of people, I think, somehow either glamorize it, like a certain singer who just recently released an album that's basically trying to create the image that she is a witch. Loud eye roll. Or it's glamorized, or it's extremely, I would say, demonized. It's like being ridiculously blasphemer, her heresy, burned him on stake. But it's kind of neither of that. So I just wanted to kind of make sure to, I would say, for people to truly be able to actually have somebody who will explain to them truly, without drama and without glamour, what this actually truly is about. Silinget is asking, wow, now I'm intrigued and want to know what book you are talking about. Well, one of my favorite books, and I believe that's one of, I would say, the best books to start with, it's called The Kybalion. Kybalion is, let me spell it for you, Kybalion, 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 by a writer that's called himself Free Initiates. It's not Free Initiates. The guy is named William Walker Atkinson. He just wrote it as Free Initiates. But this book is actually truly great, as it explaining some of the basic principles of divinity, and it's very accessible for a beginner, and I'd say even beginner can actually grasp this book. So Kybalion is one of the best books to start with. When it comes to an actual training system, my recommendation would be either Barden, Initiation into Hermetics. If you are more dedicated, or if you are willing to go down the rabbit hole faster and basically straight to a goal, and you're willing to truly dedicate quite a bit of your energy to it, then a book from George Lomer, George without E, just George Lomer, called The 7 Hermetic Letters. It's actually like a 7 steps training system. That's very good. Obviously, I'm now putting together my training system too, so I'm trying to make something that would be accessible for people as well. So I would say those would be one of the I would say good base training materials. With let's say Barden and partially Lomer, both of those are basically training materials that would be used, or something very similar, if you would be actually going to magical lodges. So if you're actually going to magical order, those would be most likely, or very similar, would be training materials you would be getting there. So that's, let's say, very good and legit systems to kind of start with. But I was also sensing and seeing lots of many other books that I found that was very interesting. But if I should pinpoint two that I would like the most, would be Kybalion and 7 Hermetic Letters, eventually Emerald Tablets, which is one of the, I would say, base or most important Hermetic texts. But with Emerald Tablets, I would say they might be quite hard to grasp. Okay, I'm going to write it in a section, because I'm just typing it in the chat. So if you are able to get to the chat to kind of see how what I'm writing there, how Kybalion spells, so I just wrote it there. So those books, I would say, Emerald Tablets. If you're going to read Emerald Tablets, exactly like the stone Emerald Tablets, I can give you one recommendation, and that is, as a beginner reading Emerald Tablets, try not to worry too much about trying to dissect the text, to like scrutinize it and be able, like, what exactly they mean by that, what exactly they mean by that. As a beginner, you would just fry your brain with it, and most likely you wouldn't get out of it what you need to get out of it. So I would say, if you're going to read Emerald Tablet as a beginner, just use your intuition. Feel through it. Feel the words. Feel the visuals he's painting for you. If he's talking about the place, or talking about the people, or whatever he's talking about in the Emerald Tablets, just imagining, get the visuals. That way you are grasping and understanding the book through your conscious and your subconscious. that will be much more better prepared even for a beginner to grasp those big concepts than trying to grasp it by consciously scrutinizing every word, what he meant by this, where he's got this from. Just enjoy the visuals, let it go, let it flow. This way it will go straight to unconscious. That's where it's supposed to go anyway. So that's better way how to read those books. Sometimes with the hermetic books, don't try to grasp them too hard. They are just going to slip through your fingers. Try to kind of lose the grip when you are reading them and just enjoying the flow, enjoying the visuals, enjoying the words. Try to imagine what it means. Trying to imagine what's that? What's halls of Amedi? What's that? Where is it? Where are those halls? How do they look like? Try to imagine it, feel through it. And I assure you, as a beginner, you are going to get significantly more out of those books by actually reading them this way than trying to like, oh, what does this mean? Like, yeah, don't do that. If you have any questions, I still have like last 8 minutes of the show. So if any questions, I would invite you to come to www.paraxradionetwork.com/chat, where you can just ask question. I'm going to respond. Phantom, what is the link to the radio? I found this chat of the Minute homepage. What is the link to the radio? Well, the radio should be www.paraxradionetwork.com. So that should be it. Hold on, I'm going to just write it. So I'm really hoping you like this topic. I'm sensing not many people actually talk about this stuff. Many people will have radio shows or podcasts when they're talking again about the advanced stuff, like what is this particular quality of light in this one particular situation and how those scholars used to see it. Which is a great one. Obviously, that's not how beginner or somebody who feels the calling, as I was saying at the beginning, can use or can be really useful. So before I get any more questions, just going to answer or just going to point out one more important thing, and that is have your diary. Have a magical, some sort of diary of some sort where you will be eventually writing down important dreams, where you'll be writing down your progress. And sometimes if you are willing to listen to yourself, it will start naturally creating your own system. You just have to maybe start with relaxation, meditation, and introspection, and just kind of let it flow. And it will show you the exercises itself. Like it will show you that maybe you want to meditate on a crystal. Okay, I feel like it, I go with it. Maybe you feel like meditating on a candle flame. Okay, fine, go with it. Maybe now you want to contemplate on the creation of a crystal. Maybe you want to like imagine the way how the crystal was crystallized and imagining the will that created that crystal while holding it in your hands. Fine, write it down in the diary, do it again. Maybe you want to incorporate tarot to kind of give you some extra guidance. So, like I would say, give it some space to kind of guide you gently into what you should do and where you kind of should go. But I would say if you are following a system or somebody else's book, I would say in that case, try to stick to that book and don't skip exercises. I think you can add some little like contemplation, introspection now and then, but do not skip exercises if you are going through somebody else's system. So we have last 5 minutes of this show. So this show was or still is for another 5 minutes about how to start in esoterics, how to start with hermetic, how to start with the magical training, what should be the first step, what is this about, what to avoid, and where to go and how to go, and why is all of those things so hard to grasp and understand. So in case you just got to the show, you would like to listen to it from the beginning, I would invite you to go on the Mixcloud.com, where you put in a search bar Spiritual Alchemy Show, It should show you my profile. You can even follow me there, or you can follow me actually on Facebook. I have Facebook, Spiritual Alchemy Show Facebook, where I'm always making events and posting links to those shows. And also you can go on www.spiritual-alchemy.uk, which is my website where you can basically find the whole archive of the show. Ceiling Cat is asking, it was a good book. I also went through all of Dion Fortune's book as well. Dion Fortune is a great book to start with. She's definitely one of the good ones to start with magic. She kind of gives you the idea how it feels to be magic, feels to be mage, and all sorts of the other things. So the Unfortunate is definitely also a good person to start with. Ras from Spiral Radio, hi there. He wrote, got a Moonchild book right there. That's not a book I would read, but I'm actually not hearing about it from the first time. So I was actually thinking about looking at it. It seems to be very interesting. I would say, you know what, exactly, like, don't be afraid. Like, maybe some of the books are like a scholarly occult. Just flick through it. Do you like it? You don't like it. Some books will be more new age. Some books will be more spiritual. Some books will be more on alchemy. Just flick through the book, read a few sentences, see, does it resonate? Does it not resonate? If it resonates with you where you are at right now in life, for some, it does resonate with you for a reason. So it's good to kind of have that reference, about it. Okay, so I have the last 2 minutes in my show. So thank you so much for being with me. I have more guests lined up for August, so it's not just going to be listening to me. I'm sure you're always happy about it. So thank you so much for listening. I'm really hoping that you like this show, and this show kind of get you a better idea what it actually takes to be a magician, what it takes to be and train as magician. That it's not just about fireballs and levitating or fighting Voldemort, but it truly is about fighting something even worse than Voldemort, and that is fighting your own self, your own wounds, your own pains, and your own limitations. So this is what truly magic and esoterics and hermetics is about. Thank you so much for listening for me for this show, and I will be looking forward to meet you and talk to you next week.